Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Charity Village webinar. We will just wait a moment for everyone to join the session. Okay, we will get started. Welcome to today's Charity Village webinar. My name is Mercedes. I am the Marketing and Communications Specialist with Charity Village. As we are gathering here in a virtual platform, it is important to acknowledge that each of us is joining this webinar from the ancestral or unceded lands of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nation people. As a settler on this land, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Anishinaabe, which includes the Ojibwe of Fort William First Nation. For those who may be joining a Charity Village webinar for the first time, Charity Village is Canada's largest online job board for the nonprofit sector. In addition to our online job board, organizations can also host volunteer positions. So if you are looking for work or to recruit talent in the sector, Charity Village is a great place to start. We also have a ton of excellent resources for nonprofit professionals, including online courses, articles, fundraising tools, and free webinars like the one we are presenting today. Before we start today's webinar, I would like to quickly run through some housekeeping items. You may have noticed when you joined the webinar that you were automatically put on mute. Since we have hundreds of participants in today's session, it is important for us to minimize the amount of background noise so that everyone can clearly hear the presentation. But you can still ask questions and make comments using the question box at the bottom of the Zoom control panel. Look for that at the bottom of your screen. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so please submit your questions as you think of them, and we will do our best to get to as many as possible. You can also email your questions to webinars@charityvillage.com. If you happen to encounter any technical issues with the webinar, whether with viewing the presentation or with the audio, please let us know in the question box or by sending us an email. We will do our best to get any technical difficulties resolved as quickly as possible, but in a worst case scenario, please remember that we are recording today's webinar and we will send you the full recording by email tomorrow. So if you get called away or disconnected, you will still be able to view the full presentation. And with that, I'd like to welcome our presenter for today, Megan Foster, the founder of Mosaic Engagement.
Hello, thank you for that, Mercedes, and thank you all very much for joining today. I echo what Mercedes said about tech challenges, and I will just start out by saying if something happens to my technology, I will commit to getting back as soon as I can. So fingers crossed that does not happen. So thank you again very much for coming and joining today. We are going to be talking about all things strategic planning, the why, the what, and the how. My goal for today for all of you is that you take away at least one thing, hopefully more, but at least one thing that you can put into action right away. Whether your strategic planning cycle is coming up right now, or if it's something that's going to be coming in the future, this hopefully will give you the tools and the understanding of how you can take care of that process on your own. So as we are looking at what to expect today, Mercedes did mention that we're going to do some discussion. Also, please use that question and answer for that discussion. I do have an opportunity a few times throughout the session for you to engage in a different way using your phones. But for now, if you can please sit back and relax and enjoy this opportunity to learn together. Those of you that are watching the recording, I'm doing some time travel now, I'm talking to the future. Those of you that are watching this recording back, you won't be able to access the live engagement that we're going to do, but you will see the results of that engagement from this group here today. So you'll be doing time travel as well. You'll be going back in time and seeing how folks responded. So looking at our information today, we're going to talk about the components of the strategic plan. So what actually goes into a plan? What are the steps to develop our plan? So now that we know what's involved, how do we do those things? And then what we can do to set you up for a solid start. What are some of those tricks and tips that facilitators do that we could incorporate on our own? And then looking at a few resources that we have for supporting your strategic planning as well. So welcome and introductions. Thank you again, Mercedes, for that welcome. My name is Megan Foster. I am the owner of Mosaic Engagement, and Mosaic Engagement is an organization that is determined to bring people and bring the expertise of your organizations to your decisions. So we are a group of process facilitators. We also have some reporters as well and writers, and we work with your organization to come up with the best plan for you as the ones doing the work together. I am joining you, oops, excuse me, I'm going the wrong way. I am joining you today from Treaty 2 territory here in Brandon, Manitoba, homelands of the Ochi-Chikovan, Anishinaabe-Waukee, and Métis people. I myself really am proud to be someone leading an organization as a white cisgender female. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm really open about that. And I really encourage folks to consider being open about that as well. Right now is a tough time for members of the 2S LGBT plus community, and I'm doing my part that I can to really show and share that there is no place for hate within Mosaic Engagement, nor within Canada and this beautiful country that we have. So I do encourage and hope you do some reflection as well and see where you stand on those different topics. If you're interested in finding more about where you are located, I do encourage you to visit native-land.ca. You can put in your physical location and it will give you a lot of history of the lands that you're on. So if you've never done that before, you might consider doing that. You may also invite your board members or your staff teams or your volunteers to do it as well, and have a discussion about what that means for you and your team and how you can work towards reconciliation, equity, and inclusion as well beyond the work that you're doing day to day. So let's talk a little bit about the components of a strategic plan. So the perspective that we offer is that there's 5 different pieces in these plans. We always start with the vision and value and mission of the organization. I put that at the bottom of this inverted pyramid here as that guiding light. We really need to make sure that this is solid within our organization and that we're discussing it proudly. How many of you can say your vision and mission? How many of you know your organization's values? And bonus points, if you can think back right now, how are we demonstrating those values in action? For us at Mosaic Engagement, a few of our values are inclusion and fun. So I'm hoping that you will have a little bit of fun today, and on a couple of different levels, we are demonstrating inclusion. And one of those being including your voices in this, gathering questions and answers, also with our engagement piece later on in the session. So how are your organizational values actually being demonstrated? Can you do that? So that's part number 1, is that vision, mission, values statements. Number 2, we expand a little bit and we look at strategic pillars. We then move into the outcomes of what we would like to achieve in those different strategic pillars for the duration of our plan. We then go into major initiatives, which are the how we are going to achieve the what, the outcomes. I am going to go into a little bit of detail more on each of these areas, but just giving you that broad overview first. Above the dotted line, you'll see the dotted line on your screen there. Above that dotted line, we've got action plans. And that's deliberately separate because action plans are internal. We're going to go into a bit more detail about that. But the main parts of your strategic plan are those 1 to 4, and then we operationalize it at the action plan level. So moving into a little bit more detail here, our vision, mission, and values. Our vision, what do we aspire to be? So forward thinking, really broad, aspirational statements. What is it that we aspire to be? And why are we in existence? What is it that we are working toward to be better in this world? Our mission statements are much more operational. Mission statements clearly answer, what do we do? For whom do we do it? And what makes us unique as an organization? What is that secret sauce that we have that no one else or that others may have differently? Finally, our values. What are our core values and beliefs that we want to demonstrate in our everyday actions? So this set of statements may shift and change a little bit over the existence of the organization. Other organizations may intentionally make a dramatic shift in their mission, but it isn't off the cuff. It's something that is planned and built on, and that's part of that strategic plan. We really encourage that you take a look regularly, whether it's every 3 years, every 4 years, at your vision, mission, and value, and consider, are these still resonating with us? Do they still resonate with our stakeholders or our members, our clients, our volunteers? Or do we need to shift and change a little bit? So the strategic planning is the perfect time to take a look at those components. Once those are set, those will not change for the duration of your plan. We encourage that they stay as that foundation for your organization. Next component, strategic pillars. So these can be considered as the overall buckets of your organization. So what are these 3 or 4 or 5 areas, high level, that we want to focus our time? What are those core areas of focus for the organization? Once those are defined and identified, within each of those focus areas or strategic pillars, you will want to consider, what do we want to achieve? What do we want the outcome of the work we do during the duration of our plan to include? I really encourage you to stick to 2 to 3 things, because if you remember, you may have, suppose you have 4 pillars as an organization. If you're thinking of accomplishing 2 to 3 things per pillar, that would then be, doing the math, 8 to 12 things that we want to do in the duration of our plan. Once we've identified what we want to achieve, the major initiatives are how we are going to achieve those things. So what are the 4 to 5 big initiatives that we need to complete to deliver on those outcomes, to make sure that's what we're going to do, that we're going to achieve? So going back to our math again, if we've got 8 to 12 outcomes we want to accomplish, and we have 4 to 5 initiatives for each of those outcomes, our plan starts to grow pretty big. That's why I really encourage you to limit yourselves in those outcomes, be specific, be as clear as you can on those outcomes, and be as clear as you can on the how, the major initiatives. How are we going to achieve that? So once we have our strategic plan put together, those 4 components, we take that strategic plan and we build it into an action plan. So this is that day-to-day, what are we actually doing in each of the years of our plan? This is typically internal. Most organizations now are sharing their strategic plan or portions of it, depending on what your organization wants to do. And the internal action plans are typically not shared beyond the staff, perhaps the board team. This is something that I would really encourage you to take the time to invest in. What sometimes happens is that organizations develop this fabulous strategic plan, really proud of it. We've invested our time in this strategic plan development. We've put money into it, and then it sits in the desk drawer and we just go back to doing what we're actually doing. The reason for that is that there's a missed opportunity for developing the action plan. So taking the strategic 50,000-foot ideas and bringing them down to our level of what we're actually doing each day. So I really do encourage you to take a look and see, do you have a strategic plan? Is it expired? That may also be the case. And if you haven't gained any progress on what you had hoped to achieve during that strategic plan, why is that? It could be because the action plan wasn't built along with it. So at this point, I would like you to reach out your phones and you can scan this QR code. If you have technical challenges with that, just like scanning a QR code at a menu, at a restaurant or something like that, you just open up your camera's phone. Don't take a picture of it. Just hold it up as if you're going to take a picture of it, and you will see a little link pop up. Click on that link and it will take you to what's called a Menti poll. And we are going to ask your opinion and see where people are at in organizations with their planning. This is all anonymous, I promise. I will not say organization XYZ doesn't have a strategic plan. I will not say any of that. It'll all be anonymous. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a moment and going to share a different screen so that we can see the results as they're coming in. So again, that QR code that I'm asking you to scan is also down in the corner. If you've already visited, you don't have to visit again. If you would rather, on your computers or on your phones, go to menti.com and you can enter the 8-digit code that will give you access to this as well. So this is a question asking, does your organization have an existing, and which of those components do you have existing? No or yes, we do, or there might be a I'm not sure in there. Oh, this is so cool. Seeing in the bottom corner of your screen right now, you'll see that number going up. 263. So that's how many voices. Now we're at 273. How many voices we've heard from. I am going to go to our question and answer box here. As we are waiting for some more folks to add their answers, I'll answer some questions here. So thank you very much. Again, if you do have questions, please add them to the question and answer box, which you'll find at the bottom of your, well, it might be at the top, at your Q&A button on your Zoom toolbar. So one question, how about having a big, hairy, audacious goal along with the vision and mission? You absolutely could, yes. What we like to say is to keep that vision and mission very tight so that others understand it as well. You could also communicate your goals, absolutely. I would suggest that you keep that vision and mission and values tight so that people can be involved. Another question. Could you explain with some examples? I certainly could. I don't have any prepared specifically, but I would like to have Charity Village jump in here as well.
Hi, Megan. Certainly. So we can jump on to the next question. We can say the examples for the end if that works better for you. So the next question is, how long should we plan ahead? So 5 years, etc.
Yeah, great question. That differs from organization to organization. So what I would have answered that before the pandemic was that most organizations were having a 4 to 5. I even saw an 8-year plan. That seems long. Now what we're finding, the trend is that actually more organizations are choosing to go the 3 to 4, maximum 5 years, just because it feels like we are shifting so quickly now in this post-pandemic world that we're living in. So typically we recommend that 3 to 4 to 5 year mark. You may also have something that clearly suggests when your plan should, or how long your plan should be. So I'll use the world of sport for an example. Sport operates on quads with the Olympics happening every 4 years. So many organizations will have a 4-year strategic plan to align with that quad. You may also have within your organization, we have, certain terms of reference or length of terms for board members. You may want to look at that and be strategic about how you could align those with your strategic planning as well. I'll take a couple more questions now here as well. How many stakeholders should be involved in crafting a strategic plan? More to come on that, so stay tuned. Spoiler alert, I'll give you some info on that shortly. Is the action plan developed on an annual or strat plan timing? Excellent question there as well. The action plan would be based on the length of the strategic plan. However, each year, I would suggest the action plan gets revisited. So it is revisited much more frequently than the strategic plan content, and it's meant to be that way because things will shift as well. How involved should the board be in this process? Another excellent question. So again, depending on the organization, there are certain times, and I'll speak more to this shortly, certain times that different folks will be involved in the different process. Yeah. Have you seen some organizations move to purpose and behaviors instead of vision and values? Yeah, some are, absolutely. And again, that is something you can decide for your organization, what feels best for you and how you and your team can develop that to make it work best for your members as well. So I'm going to pause on questions here, and I will take this opportunity as well to say that we are going to do some questions again at the end. I also am going to do my best to reply later on with more questions as we go after the fact, a couple of days, weeks from now. So I am going to unveil our results here. Dun, 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 dun. We have heard from 379 voices. And currently, as we're seeing here, those organizations have vision and mission statements. A few less have sets of values. A few have strategic pillars. Not as many. We're kind of in that lower range that have outcomes or the what that are clearly defined. And then the major initiatives, the how. And that is so common. I am actually not shocked to see that our outcomes is the lowest. People love doing the vision, mission, values, and they love doing the what. This is what we're doing every day. Often it's those pieces in the middle that get left out, that we don't clearly identify why we are doing those things that we do every day. So not surprised to see that. Question number 2 that I've asked here is, which component might be most challenging to develop? And again, not surprising, the outcomes, or the what are we actually trying to achieve here, are being reported as what might be the most difficult to be developed. So what I'm going to do for you all that are participating live here is I'm going to follow up with this, and I will include this, Mercedes and Marina, in the follow-up email from Charity Village. I'll put together a couple of a bit of a tip sheet on how to best navigate deciding your outcomes for your plan, and we'll send that as a PDF in our follow-up email. So along with this recording, you'll have access to that as well. So I'm going to stop share and go back to my slides again. I hope you all enjoyed Menti. It's a really fabulous tool that's called Mentimeter if you're looking for that. So jumping in now, we just talked about the what is included in the plan, and now we're going to look at how we develop the plan. So as a professional process facilitator, my job is to come in and work with your organization on the process. So if you think of building a house, I am the contractor that develops all the steps of the way. I am not the one that is in there doing the content. You won't hear my voice reflected in the plan if I have done my job as a facilitator. You will hear your voices. You all know the organization best. You are the ones doing the work. You're the ones that are engaging with your funders, with your donors, with your stakeholders, with your volunteers, with your members, your users. You know the challenges. You know where you want to go as an organization. I'm the one that knows how to get you to develop a plan that will take you there. So looking overall at our plan here, these are the 5 steps that we suggest and recommend. Some of these are optional, and I'll give you a bit of an insight onto what those are. So first and foremost, not optional, plan for your plan. So confirm which steps you're going to do in your process. So of those 5 that I showed you, which feel best for you? What are the specific milestone dates that you need to have included in your plan to ensure that you're finished on time? Do you have a deadline? Do we want to get it done by fiscal year end? Do we want to get it done by calendar year end? Do we have a board retreat coming up that makes sense for us to continue and build along with that? What are those pieces that are already in our calendars that we can do? Build your strategic planning committee. So this is something that we really recommend, and it is different for every organization. A couple of questions that came up already is who is involved in the developing of the plan. I'm going to give you a very facilitated answer. It depends what you'd like. So some organizations choose to involve the board and the staff in the whole thing. Some organizations choose to develop a team specifically of board representatives, some staff representation, and possibly some volunteer representation or members of your organization. They may be participating as well. Some also involve the board at, say, the vision, mission, values, and strategic pillars development. And then they involve the staff in the other components that are really that day-to-day. This is what the board wants us to do. This is where the board wants us to go. The staff know how to get us there. So it really can be a combination. So give some thought to what is best for your organization and then build that team together. For numbers, for the strategic team itself, anywhere between sort of that 8 to 10, 12. I hesitate to say that because, again, everyone's organization is so different. I wouldn't go certainly not more than 15 people. That gets to be a lot of voices in this part. Where we do get to, oh yes, and then make sure once you've decided, you're going to contact participants at each step of the way. Where we do want to hear from a lot of voices is step number 2. So now that you have developed your process, you know what you're going to do, you know your timing. Now we're going to dive in and we're going to reach out to our stakeholders. So this is where we hear from a lot of voices. It may include a survey to all of your members, a wide open net. It may include a focus groups, a set of focus groups where a few different voices are heard specifically. So if we think of, we want to hear from our users who have been program participants in the past year. We want to hear from our program our program leaders in the past year. We want to hear from our staff team, and we want to hear from our board. So there might be 4 separate focus groups that we hold, and we ask them, how are we doing? What's going well? Where should we put our focus? And what's a big, bold idea you have? This is that big, hairy, audacious goal that you think we should consider for the next 4 years. You may also want to reach out to your stakeholders and include a question of how much do you resonate with our vision? What specific improvements might you suggest to our vision statement? How much do you like the mission statement? What specific improvements would you consider for those? Our set of values, how well are we demonstrating these values? Are there any values you would suggest we include that we aren't already? So you could also reach out to your stakeholder audience with questions like that as well. The next step is then developing the plan. So we've asked our folks what they think, how we're doing. We've got a bit of a pulse check on what we're doing. And now we take that information and we're going to start to develop our vision, mission, values, and priority areas. Then we're going to do a revision and a review. I don't like to do the whole entire plan without doing that review. I really do encourage organizations and clients that we work with to give some breathing room throughout this process as well. Some organizations will do, a stakeholder review in, say, November, and then we're going to get together at the beginning of December, and we're going to start to draft our things. We're then going to take a bit of a break. We'll come back together in January, draft a little bit more. Then we're going to ask for some feedback. So we like to spread it out a little bit. Some organizations take up to 18 months to develop their plan from start to finish. Other organizations, if you're panicking, don't panic. You can do it on a shorter timeline than that. Some organizations choose to do it in a more condensed timeline, but have all their steps ready to go so that they can just build upon each step of the way. Our next piece, after we have developed the draft plan, we suggest that you go back and you ask some stakeholders, hey, how did we do? I wouldn't recommend going to your entire stakeholder group again. So that same one from step 2, you may want to look at a representative group. So maybe now instead of reaching out to all program participants, you're going to look at a handful of, 10 of your program participants that are really well connected with the organization. You may also do a survey as well to hear from more voices, but just making sure that you're really clear on what it is you're asking. Specifically, sharing the draft, noting that it is in draft and that this isn't our final plan. What might we have missed, and or how could this be improved? Because they will have a different perspective than those of you that developed that plan. Finally, we really recommend that you refine and finalize. We really suggest that if you do that feedback process step, that you then gather that feedback, take a look at what came up from your stakeholders, and what did they suggest you could do for the review, to improve your plan. Then you will come back together with your strategic team and refine your content based on the feedback you heard. I like to say that the plan will be about 95% complete until you get to this refining, and finalizing stage. It's not this is not the time for you to completely overhaul your plan from start. It's really going, okay, that's a good point. We forgot to include the such and such perspective on this program. Let's build that in here. Or, oh, you know what? It's really resonating with people. Perfect. We're going to keep that. The refinement stage would likely benefit from being a smaller group than your strategic planning committee, simply because then people can really narrow in and go, okay, great. We want this, this, and this. We've heard, we're going to do that. Following that refinement, you're going to approve the plan. So this is done by the board of directors, and it's often taken to a board meeting. You may also have the plan discussed at the AGM. If you're holding an AGM, that could actually also be really great timing to get some feedback. So rather than approving the plan at your AGM or in time for your AGM, you may develop it and then go, oh, we're going to have all of our stakeholders together, because everyone's always just banging down the door to attend AGMs. So we can have all of our stakeholders come together. Maybe we'll have a session on our strategic plan. Here's the draft. How did we do? We can get some answers here and then take that back from the AGM and put it together for further refinement. So, looking at the steps of the plan, I know I went through that very, very quickly. So I'm going to take a look here just quickly at the questions. Again, I'm not going to have time to answer all of the questions here. There's some really, really great ones. So I will commit to following up at a later date. I won't be able to get them back to you by tomorrow, but one question here I wasn't anticipating. I love it. Do you think this process can be applied to a team within the organization? Absolutely. Anytime you want to develop any sort of work plan, you could certainly do something like that as well. Yeah, absolutely. One question, how do you ensure you have the appropriate expertise involved when crafting this? If the employees, volunteers, and board don't have any experience, and there's 0 funds on hand. Great parameters with that question. Really, really, really challenging to work with the different limitations and the different realities really that we have. What I would suggest is to be mindful of when you're creating a strategic plan, you are not doing the stuff yet. So something in your plan might be, we want to do a review of our HR policies within our volunteers and our staff. That would be an outcome of the plan. How we do that is look into grants and funding, look into, and these are not the words I would use, I would be much more articulate, but off the top of my head, look into grants and funding, and then looking into, a third party or an outsourced organization that could come in and do a review for us, something like that. So again, don't try not to confuse developing the plan with the doing. Right now, we're looking at what could be done over the next 4 years or 3 years, and how we're going to achieve that, not actually doing that achievement. Can you provide examples or speak to how to get all employees engaged? Yeah, great question. The more excited you can be about it, the better. It also may be beneficial if you set aside specific time. So instead of just, at our regular Tuesday staff meeting, we're also going to do this. Make it fun. Carve out the day. Maybe you're going to do a potluck. Maybe everyone's going to bring their favorite family dish and you're going to bring it to Thursday. We're going to do this in the morning. So having it sort of spotlighted. Also, I do like to live in sunshine and rainbows world. I'm also fully aware that not everybody is going to be fully engaged in the process. And that's, again, just one of those realities. Those that are really engaged can help to generate that excitement among others as well. I recently had a client that we had completed some work for, and then she brought us back to another organization that she is a board member of. And she introduced me and said, we just finished strategic planning with Mosaic Engagement, and it was the least boring and least painful that I've ever done. And I've done a lot of them. And I just thought that was the best glowing recommendation. And I'm putting it all over my testimonials because I think that's hilarious, because strategic planning can be kind of dry. So we really do try to engage and try to involve folks in the process in a fun, meaningful way. That's one other thing. And then I'll take one more question here, is that if we do ask for their opinion and then they don't see their words reflected anywhere in the plan, that feels misaligned. So it feels like, oh, they asked us and then they don't actually care. I don't see anything that I said there. Okay, never mind. And it kind of gets that deflated feeling. On the flip side, if you can ask for input from the staff and use specific words that are found there in your content, and then you bring that back and ask them for feedback, and they see, oh, I saw that exactly. That's awesome. It really is a sense of uplifting and builds that ownership of the plan. And then that helps later in the process when you're starting to build the action plan. It can really build that buy-in. I was working with a client recently, and we were working on the action plans, and we were working with their marketing team, and the plan that was developed and their marketing staff sort of said, like, yeah, that's one outcome, I guess, but actually this would have been more helpful. And it was too far along in the process for them to go back and change that strat plan. So it's really important to hear from lots of voices as well throughout the process to make sure that you can hit the mark for everybody that's involved. Great question. What if you're part of a global entity and our vision and mission cannot be changed without engagement with other chapters? Yeah, great question. You know what I often do in this scenario with clients is look at, here's our vision, mission, values, purpose, whatever the statement is. What is our role in this? How are we moving forward in this vision and mission? I myself wasn't part of the truth and reconciliation development of the calls to action in any way, shape, or form, but I am constantly looking to those to say, okay, how can I, in my single role as a person, move this forward for the betterment of our country and the world? So even though I wasn't part of that planning, it still is something that I can look to and figure out how I can be part of that role and what I can do. Another great question. Suggestions for meaningful mid-check cycle or check-in on a strat plan process. Yeah, excellent point. So we've gotten to the end of developing our plan. We've got it approved. We're doing our action planning. We're having a potluck supper to do that, or potluck lunch to do that. And we're having a great time. We've got Post-its, all this sort of stuff. And then a year later, we've kind of forgotten. So what I like to suggest is that you can build this in either to board meetings. So perhaps it's a standing item, agenda item is a quick check-in. I don't suggest a huge rehash on the entire plan, but basically, here's our 5 goals that we're working on this year. This one's on track. This one was delayed because our funding got shifted. So we're going to actually do it in the 3rd quarter instead of the 1st. And this one is actually completed ahead of schedule. So we're moving on here. Great. That way it'll keep it top of mind. I also would really suggest doing some updates at your AGMs so you can update your stakeholders to show them that you're investing in the process and that you're really interested in this being a successful plan. And looking at a clearly defined midway checkpoint. So if our plan is 3 years, a year and a half in, we're going to plan a day, whether it's a board retreat or a staff 1-hour meeting, and really look at our goals. How are we doing? How is this progressing? If your action plan has been done effectively, you might have that data already there. So the more you can stay on board, or on top of developing and maintaining that action plan, the easier that midway check will do. Some organizations also choose to do a midway check with their stakeholders. So they may do an AGM session halfway through their plan of, we're looking for feedback here. They may do a survey. How are we doing on these items? And then get that feedback there as well. Caution when you're doing feedback on plans, your external audience may not be as familiar in the process and the accomplishments as your internal audience. So if something comes back and you've given it a green light, yep, we're done, we've done this part, and then your feedback comes back and they say you haven't done any of this, that to me is a clear sign of some communication challenges, that they may not be aware that that's been done, or you're calling it something different and they're not clear that those two things are aligned. So just keeping track of that. Ooh, I am flying, my mouse hit the wrong thing. So how do we get started on this? So a little bit of overview here for you. Who should be involved in now? Okay, let me pause. I got ahead of myself there. We are now looking at, okay, I've got the components. I know what goes in a plan. I'm pretty comfortable with the process that we're going to do. Now, how do we get started on it? So the first thing you're going to do is consider your strategic team. Who is going to be involved? Everybody should have their voices heard. So everybody should be participating in discussions and conversations. It would be important to have, I lovingly call them our ringleaders or our circus masters, a facilitator or a co-facilitation team. So that might be external facilitators such as Mosaic Engagement. It also may be someone that you've identified. It could be your board chair. It could be your ED. It could be someone who's just really good at running a meeting. And they are going to develop the agenda and make sure people are on track and on task. You also will benefit from having a timekeeper. This will be this person's only job to keep you on track. Conversations will go long. People will get excited. Discussions will happen. You need that timekeeper to say 5 minutes. Oh, you've only got 10 more minutes, or time to move on. So have someone identified to be that timekeeper. Also someone to manage the logistics. So who is in charge of booking the meeting room? Who's making sure that we have the flip chart paper? Who's making sure of all of those things? So it's interesting, any one of those people, any one of those roles could be done by the same person. You might have your timekeeper as your facilitator. If you would like to spread the wealth, that can be helpful, because then it's only one job per person, so that people can still participate in the conversation as well. If you do choose to invest and have a third-party facilitator, that is their job. So you all would just attend and be able to provide content. The person that you've brought on with the process, they will manage and maintain all of that, with the exception perhaps of the logistics. That might be the in-house role as well. Where do we do this, Megan? Great question. I'm glad you asked. This can be done effectively virtually or in person. And I've got an asterisk beside hybrid, so I will mention that as well. So a virtual process, I promise you, can be done effectively. We did that all through COVID. Of course, we shifted and pivoted that way. What we're finding now is that folks are actually realizing that with virtual, it's less expensive. We don't have to bring our entire board together, either from across the country, across the region, across the city. People don't have to travel. And we can also hear from voices that we may not have heard from. I just finished actually working with a group of teachers, and we found virtual was the much better way because they then didn't have to get substitute teachers. They could pop on for 90 minutes. They had someone cover their class, and then they went back to class. So for that particular group, virtual made total sense. In person is certainly the traditional way to go. That can be absolutely effective as well. What I like to suggest, no matter where this is taking place or how, which method, please be conscious of what can be done asynchronously. So when we're not together, we can be reading the reports, we can be doing our, catch up on making sure I've worded my piece properly. When we're together, we really want to have that idea exchange. So really be in control of the agenda and when those discussions are happening. Hybrid can be done effectively, although I don't recommend it. Don't try this at home, kids. It's something that can go really wrong really quickly. And what folks sometimes think is that we can just add someone in. So we're going to do it in person. We'll just have Megan join virtually. Yes, it can be done, but then you're planning 2 meetings. So you're planning the process for your in-person time and you're planning your process for the virtual if you want it to be done effectively. I do suggest if it's something you want to offer hybrid, to really consider bringing in someone that can help you support that, because it can be a challenge. And I think we've all participated in virtual meetings or hybrid meetings that aren't that great. Hopefully this isn't one of them. I don't think Charity Village offers those types of workshops. So what do we need when we're developing this? Really recommend roundtables. I know often we arrive to boardrooms and there's a big U shape, like a board meeting, excuse me, or they're classroom style and everyone's facing the front. If you can have roundtables, or they could be square but small, that in right away itself suggests small group discussions. So it takes away from that giant presentation keynote space and brings it more to, okay, I'm having a discussion with these 4 people, we're sharing ideas, then we're going to bring it to the group. Make sure you've got chairs, make sure you've got some extra space for flip charts, for breakout groups. And then I talked about flip chart paper. So if you're doing this in person, you'll want to have flip chart paper available. You'll want to have markers, tape, scissors, sticky notes of a variety of colors are helpful because you can then earmark ideas. Okay, who was from the blue team? Tell us more about your suggestion here. You can do that sort of thing. Projector and screen can be helpful, but not necessarily required. One thing that isn't here that's kind of funny to me is wall space. Not all places have great wall space. So if we have gone to the trouble of having flip chart paper, is there a place we can put this up? Or are we having to bring in flip chart stands? Some locations don't want you drawing on the flip chart on the wall in case it comes through the paper, those sorts of logistic things. So giving some thought to each of those steps as well. So when do we do this? So again, thinking back to the first step of the process, the planning and preparation phase, what is the deadline that we want this done by? And then work back from that. So if we want this done, I'm just going to make this up. Our fiscal year end is March 31st. We want our new plan to be done and approved by March 31st. So backing up, okay, that means we need to have the plan done and gather feedback by mid-February. Okay, great. So that means we need to do our content. So let's say January, and before that, we'll say end of November to January, we're going to develop the plan. That means before that, we're going to want to consult with folks. I've also seen a couple questions come up with environmental scan or scan of the sector. A pestle is something else that might come up. That would all be part of that stakeholder consultation as well. So gathering where are we now, the current status, absolutely, those pieces are all part of that step. If you're not sure what those mean, put them out of your head. It's okay. So that process, if we want to have our content starting by November, we need to have our scan or our stakeholder engagement done in October. So that might be how you develop it. You may also look at existing meeting times. So we know we have our AGM. This is now a new example. We know we have our AGM in April, so we want to gather feedback in April. So we're going to have our plan ready for feedback. So a draft plan in April. And then you can kind of back up from there. There may be training opportunities that you have. So we always have a volunteer training session in October. That might be an opportunity for some stakeholder engagement. So you may want to plan that in there. So what are the existing times that you can leverage to help your plan be the best it can be? So a couple of examples here for some tools you might consider. These are some flip charts that we have developed. We digitize them as well. So making this again more fun and exciting. What are those flip charts you can do ahead of time? So I know I want to gather some input on the vision, mission, and values. So I'm going to draw those templates ahead of time and then bring those with me to the meeting so that you're not trying to draw it right there. A few other tools you may consider. So you may want to use a Jamboard. Jamboard is a wonderful tool that Google offers. It is free. You do need a Gmail account or a Google account to be the creator. You do not need an account to use it. If you're familiar with Jamboard, or if you participated in my Charity Village workshop last year, we used a Jamboard. So I think we did. So we may not have, I'm not sure. Jamboard is an effective tool to use virtually as well, or in person. So the idea with Jamboard is that it's a flip chart for electronic use. So it allows people to collaborate and share all on the same thing. You also will want to have some sort of template for your plan when it's done. So what you're seeing here now is a template using a document. So this is what I like to say is the raw data. So we've developed our strategic plan from 2024 to 2027. Here's our values. This is our vision statement. Here's our mission statement. And then the following pages would have your pillars and your outcomes and initiatives to achieve those pillars. What you're seeing on the right is a graphically designed version of that raw data. So taking the content, you may have someone on your team, someone on your marketing team that's really great at developing these types of tools. You may also hire someone to do that. We do have a graphic designer on our team that works with our organizations that choose to do that and prepare so taking that raw data, the left-hand picture that you see, putting it into a visually represented piece on the right, in a 4-page spread that can be shared with our stakeholders that includes all of the stuff we want to go public. We may also develop a set of images that represent the plan, so just the vision and with a little graphic that can be shared on our social media channels. So something that's really engaging our community to share that we've done this plan and that we're proud of it. So again, I'm seeing some really great questions. And I look forward to answering those in a follow-up email. Lovely. So let's do one more Menti. I'm going to stop share. You can scan this now, or you can wait. The scan will come up again very quickly. So our next Menti, okay, when I open this up, it's going to be the last one. Give me one moment here. As I'm doing this, Mercedes, are there any questions that you have seen that you would like to hear as I'm pulling up our next screen?
Yes, so some people are inquiring about whether or not the template will be shared with them after the session.
Does it specifically say which template? I'm going to assume the document template. I hadn't planned to, although if you do want that, I'm happy to have you reach out to me. I can give you some options. I'm also actually shortly going to give you a few options of what our team offers for different support along the way too. And one of those things is a toolkit that is available as well.
Great, thank you. And then someone else is inquiring about if there are any legal requirements to think about when using a strategic plan.
Yeah, that's a great question. I am not a lawyer, and so I am not comfortable fully answering that. What I can say is that along with board minutes, your strategic plan can be a guiding document. So when you're making commitments in your strategic plan, it is understood that these are the plans that we have. These are not legal binding requirements that we're suggesting. Having said that, I would encourage you to reach out to a lawyer, or perhaps Charity Village may have some resources as well on that. It is a separate document from your bylaws. So your bylaws are much closer related to the legality side of things. So it is separate from that. Absolutely. All right, so we've got some voices here so far. Oh, I was going to do a dramatic reveal. I'm still going to do it. So having heard of all of those different steps, which part are you most looking forward to? So again, if you haven't yet scanned the code that I'm sharing, you can scan that in the bottom right corner to join and have your voice heard. You could also go to menti.com and enter that 8-digit number. It is a different number than the previous one, so just be mindful of that. Question that we're asking here, which part are you most looking forward to? The planning, the stakeholder engagement. And again, that's where you would do that environmental scan, the SWOT analysis, if you choose to do that. A pestle of organizations have already done reaching out that way. Developing the plan. Are you excited to get that content going? Gathering feedback, or the finalization and the formal approval of that plan. So we'll take another minute here. And I'll just look at a couple of questions. What's the difference between initiatives and action plans? Great question. So the initiatives are still at a very high level. They are likely going to include actions. So conduct, complete, review, those sorts of verbs. What is different about the action plan is the action plan goes to that who, what, why, how. And it will include specifically, okay, we know we want to conduct an HR review. How are we going to do that? In year one, these are the specific things we need to do to make that happen. This is who's going to be involved. Megan's going to do this role. Mercedes is going to be accountable for this. Marina is going to be accountable for that. And then how much budget is required? Well, we know we've only got $4,000 for this year, and we've got $6,000 coming in next year. So we're going to delay for this portion of it for next year. So you're really getting down to that nitty-gritty level. Also, initiatives might be something that your organization chooses to put out publicly. The action plans, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't put it out publicly. You would keep that internal. I also do suggest to organizations that the metrics, anytime you're going to add a metric, so we want to increase our program participation by 10% in the next year. By 10% in the next year is that metric. That's the measure you're going to use for success. We recommend that those actually don't go in the strategic plan. We suggest that in using that example, that we want to increase program participation, period. That's what's in your strategic plan. And then the 10% increase each year is in your action plan. So that's a separate internal measure that you're going to use for your organization. That's our recommendation anyway. I know a number of other contributors to the strategic planning realm and sphere will have other opinions on that. So that's please feel free to see what works best for you. How do you ensure continuity of a strat plan when your board members turn over? Excellent question there as well. So that's something that I really like that question, because that happens. We know our board turns over, we know our staff turns over. If you can be intentional about the timing of your strategic plan, some organizations will choose to develop their plan based on the board members' terms that are there. So we're here for a 2-year term, and so is here for this 2-year term. We're going to build it for those 4 years. Others will actually stagger it. So they'll say, we know we have an a board chair that is finished their term, and we want them to finish partway through the plan so that that new board chair can come in and have that plan ready to go to start working in their way on achieving that plan. Continuity can be a challenge, and in our experience, the more challenging the process to us signifies that either the plan missed the mark or the plan isn't active enough. So it's not enough in the culture and in the decision making. We're not actually referring back to that plan. We're not looking at what we said we wanted to do. A great problem to have is when you have worked through your plan and you're ahead. Things have happened sooner than we thought they would. We were experiencing success, so we can move forward. Fantastic. Start developing that next plan or increase your goals. We're actually not going to increase our participant rate by 10%. We're looking at 20. That's a fantastic place to be. So we've heard now from 207 voices. I am going to unveil our results. Yes, I should have made a guess. Not shocked that developing the plan is going to be the most exciting or what you're most looking forward to. We just finished last night with a client developing their plan, and we're just in the feedback stage now. And it was expressed with that client that the executive director and one of their program coordinators were feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling like excited, but holy man, there's a lot of work to do in the next 4 years. How are we going to get all this done? And that is something that I don't want to say it typically happens, but that can be that feeling of, oh, wow, I'm excited and terrified. How am I going to get this done? And I was talking with a different executive director who'd been through a number of plans. You know, they've been in the nonprofit industry for 30 years. And she was saying, I love that space. Every time I know that I'm going to feel overwhelmed, I'm going to have no idea how we're actually going to get this done. And wow, how cool is it that we have a roadmap of where we want to go? I let myself sit in that feeling of overwhelm for a little while. And then we just start to do it. And we look at those action plans and we chunk it down to, okay, what are we going to do this year? What are we going to do this quarter? What is my team going to do here? What do I need to share with folks? So we really work through that overwhelm in a good way. So next question, how confident are you? So a couple, awesome, looking at that. Some not confident at all. That's okay. We're here to help you. And then we've got quite a few in that I'm ready and very ready stage. So that's an exciting place to be. When you have this recording, and as we know, Charity Village is going to share this after the fact as well. I'm also going to send you, along with that feedback, the PDF that we will make available to help out with a couple of those pieces. And we've got another couple of tools that I'm happy to share here. So I'll just come back to our slide deck for a moment. So with Mosaic Engagement, we've got a number of different tools, and we love to share these things as well. So this strategic plan toolkit is really a set of activities, including timing, prompting activities that you can have, questions that you can follow. We include worksheets, and we certainly can customize this. I just finished with a client, and they are a provincial umbrella organization, and they decided to invest in developing this toolkit for their local clubs and associations. So they then have their branding on it, and it's available for free to all of their clubs because they've invested in developing that with them. So we've got this available for anyone that might be interested. We also have developed something, and my love, I started in nonprofit. I started with a health charity. I was a fundraising coordinator, go revenue development teams. I hear you, I see you, I feel you. I feel your back pain. Have you been on your feet all day at an event? So my heart and love goes to those small and very small nonprofits who you are the ones that are expected to develop the plan. You're, as your staff and your board, you're also the ones that are going to be there to plunge the toilet at your facility. And you also have to go meet the locksmith because the back door lock doesn't work anymore. So we can't use that door. How the heck am I supposed to do a plan? We have we've got limited budget. We want to do this, but we don't really know how. We've got this, Mosaic Engagement has the strategic plan development program available for you if you're interested as well. It's modular based, and so you've got videos of me going, hi there, blah, 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 this is what you're going to do. And then the activity to follow. We include the templates, we include as well the Jamboard. We've got a Jamboard for you. And we also include 3 phone calls throughout the process. So we'll have a call with you at the start to develop your plan timeline, and then we'll do a call midway through. So that's your deadline. You got to at least have a draft ready. And that's what's going to keep you accountable because, oh my gosh, we got a call with Megan, we got to do this. So we're going to have that draft and then a call at the end to transition to the next steps. So how do we get it from this beautiful plan that we created to our actual day-to-day? So what that can look like. We also, of course, do process facilitation. So we do team retreats. This is an opportunity if you're really thinking that, we've started our plan, but we haven't really brought us along the finish line. That's what Mosaic can do. Bring us along, have us come join you, and we can help you to wherever you are in the strategic planning process. We can help bring you from there to the finish line. As I said, we have been referred to as engaging, fun, not painful, and not boring. And that is my claim to fame. So if you would like some support there, please reach out to us, the website mosaicengagement.ca, and I will throw it back to Marina as well here. Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you for
Mercedes.
such a great presentation, Megan. Oh, no worries at all. As we are closing on the hour mark, I just want to remind everyone that you will receive a copy of the full webinar recording and resources tomorrow. So if you have to jump early, please don't worry about missing out on any of the content. And Megan, if you'd like to extend approximately 10 minutes, we can answer a few more questions and then we'll close off the webinar.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And for those that have to hop off, thank you for joining. The QR codes that you're seeing here now, you're also realizing my love for QR codes. The colorful one on the left is our Instagram page. The beige one is our LinkedIn, my LinkedIn connection. So please, happy to reach out. Also reach me directly at megan@mosaicengagement.ca or visit us at www.mosaicengagement.ca there. So let's see here. Now I'm just sort of looking randomly at questions. So Mercedes, if you do see any that have come up repeatedly, please jump in. Question here, can we as volunteer board members ask to see the staff's action plans that will execute our strat plan initiatives? That's a nice question. Some organizations do. Action plans are shared with the board. Other organizations don't, and they're really kept, that board is at a governance level and the operations are fully within the staff team. It really depends on the culture and the setup of your organization. One reflection question on that might be, why do we want to see those staff action plans? That may illuminate something that you may not realize is there. Is there a communication imbalance between the two? Are we concerned about the progress made on the plan? Is it that we as a board want to actually be more involved in the day-to-day? What does that look like? And what type of board structure do you have? Different board structures are involved differently. All right, I'll throw to you, Mercedes. Are there any questions that you're seeing commonly come up that would be beneficial?
Yeah, so there was one question. So where in this process should we take the change theory of our intervention as planned? So I'm assuming that they're just speaking about the action plan and when to implement the change theory there.
Yeah, really, really good question. Unfortunately, without knowing a lot of detail, I don't want to say do it here. But consider what is currently, what in the plan would be a current transition that, that's not the word I want to use, that wouldn't be too much interruption in transition. There might be some initiatives that, yep, makes sense. We've got the groundwork laid. We're going to keep going. Those that are going to be a full stop, we're not doing that anymore, and we're now going this way, that certainly would need some theory of change management applied there for sure. So I don't think I really fully answered that, but hopefully that gives you an idea. And if it doesn't, the individual that asked that, please follow up with me in an email and I can give you some more context there.
Great, thank you. And does the process differ if it is your second or third planning exercise?
Yeah, love that. So yes and no. Overall, the process will be the same, I would suggest. What might differ is the questions that you ask. So when we're thinking about stakeholder engagement, if there is no existing plan or the plan is so old it really isn't valuable to refer to, then you're going to start with very wide open, what should we do? What lights you up? What bold ideas do you have? What do you think we could accomplish? What do you think we should pay attention to? Those kinds of things. If you have an existing plan that either is recently expired or is going to expire soon, you might actually go and ask specifically, how did we do on this part of our plan? Or what resonates with you in this mission statement? And what would you suggest for improvement? Because then you can be real specific. What sometimes organizations are completely happy with their vision, mission, and values, and they're feeling that they still resonate. So there aren't much change required there. Other organizations feel like, no, we're ready for a shift. We're going to change gears here. I was not part of this process, but what comes to mind recently was the Red Cross in the last few years. Again, not part of that, just watching in the media, and a mother who has children in swimming lessons, that the Red Cross has sunset their swimming lesson program. That was a substantial shift in that organization, I suspect. Again, this is me just looking from the outside, that was probably intentional and perhaps part of their strategic planning. So they were well known for the work they are doing, and part of that was swimming lessons program. Sunsetting that was a significant shift away from what they had previously done. So yeah, kind of interesting there.
Thank you. And what happens when the strategic planning stalls at a major initiative, and how do you get back on track?
Lovely question. Have us come join you. I say that jokingly. Yeah, that can absolutely happen. And you know what? We actually get a lot of folks reaching out saying, Megan, we've been working on this. It's been on the side of our desk. We've kind of done it, kind of not. Can you help us just get it across the finish line? And we love that. We come in and we help and revitalize. What I would suggest, if you're not looking to bring in a third party, is perhaps someone from your organization or someone that you know could come in and just simply facilitate your process. So what I mean by that is that just having that external voice, whether it's a professional process facilitator, or it's someone from the marketing department who's going to lead your meeting in the programs department, you may be able to just have that outside voice that people then go, oh, we have to commit to this day, we have to commit to this. And it's someone that can run the meeting without being involved in the content. If you're wanting to do it within your own team and just keep it together, you may need to just have a pause and a deliberate and voice that, you know what, I'm feeling frustrations here. I can sense some frustrations in the group. We haven't been able to advance this. Let's pause it for just a couple of weeks, for a month, and we're going to come back together on this particular day, carve out that time and make it its own focus. Sometimes I know organizations will use part of their board planning meeting or their board retreat, or perhaps even a Wednesday morning board meeting, and try to do a little bit of it, and then it gets pulled away, or we got off track and we didn't come back to that, so we'll add it to the next agenda. It may actually just serve better to have its own specific designated time to be able to focus on that content instead of trying to do it piecemeal along the way.
Thank you. And how do you account for ongoing key functions of an organization, not necessarily major initiatives, that are foundational in serving an organization's mission?
Yeah, love that. So the purpose of the strategic plan is to really pause and be intentional about where we want to go. Where do we want to shift? Where do we want to make change? And I don't say that in a big way. I just mean, where do we intentionally want to put our energy to develop and grow? And we also have all this other stuff that is ongoing that might not be part of our strategies to move things forward. So that's where that action plan can really be key. What I would suggest is that you have a discussion with your staff team, and even if you got some Post-its out and just high level wrote your initiatives that are part of your strategic plan, one initiative on each Post-it. Look at your day-to-day tasks or your annual your annual events, or the things that come and go on all throughout the year. Put them on different Post-its and then start to map it out. So we've got, I'm looking at my wall here. I'm going to map it out for you. So we've got right now today on the left side of the wall, and then we've got 3 years from now on the right side of the wall. We're going to take those Post-its and decide priority, and then that's where we're going to put that action plan after that. So we're going to prioritize our strategic planning initiatives and our day-to-day ongoing tasks in fulfilling our organization's mission, and identify how we're going to prioritize the two for the duration of the plan, and then build our work plans around that.
Great, thank you. And what are the risks of accelerating this process?
That's worded really nicely. So what are the risks of accelerating this process? Your plan may not have a chance to breathe. You may not have a chance to breathe. I talk a lot about how when we're in the moment, we're in our session, whether it's we've carved out one weekend and we're going to all be there in the room and we've got our stuff and we're all excited. We've got this and got that. And yep, plan's great. And then we leave. And then when I'm out walking the dog, I go, oh no, I meant ignite, not enhance. And it's later when we've left that room, left that space, and really started to let the plan and the process settle with us, that other thoughts and other ideas come in. So if we have not given that breathing space in between our different sessions or different steps along the way, we don't allow those later thoughts to come in. Those secondary thoughts go, oh, that's what we meant. Also, if we don't accelerate the process and we really methodically plan it out, we've also built in time for other voices to participate. I've used this example quite a bit lately. So if you've heard me before, you've probably heard me say this, that back in the 90s with the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the original version, there was a study done on how frequently Ask the Audience was right compared to how frequently Phone a Friend was right, where you're surveying a large group of people and asking one person. And shockingly, the Ask the Audience was much, much, much higher percentage of correct answers than the Phone a Friend. I say that because by bringing in more voices to our process, we're going to have a better outcome. More people's perspectives are going to be involved. We're going to hear from the person that is coming to our program right on the heels of school. It's our youth program, and they come right after school, and they have to also get their sibling there, and they also have to grab a snack, and then we're trying to do this and trying to do that. But if we would just shift our program time a half an hour later, that would be enough time to do a few things first and then get to our program, and we would increase participation. I might not know that as a mom that's running the thing, but if we reach out and ask our participants for their feedback, they would be able to tell us that. Or we hear from, people who have some family commitments on Saturdays. Saturdays are not great. We do our family time here, so we don't want to run a program on Saturday. Awesome. My family might not have that, so we might not have that experience of avoiding Saturdays for programming time. So the more you can bring different voices in the process, the better. The more time you allow for those voices to come in intentionally. I don't mean just on the street. Hey, how are you doing? What do you think of our plan? The better chance you're going to have that outcome that people can see themselves in.
Thank you for sharing those insights, Megan. And on behalf of Charity Village, we would like to thank you so much for presenting such an informative presentation. And we appreciate you taking the extra time to cover so many questions for the attendees. Do you happen to have any final comments before we sign off today?
I'm really thankful to Charity Village for this opportunity. Thank you very much, everybody, for your active participation, for your voices. And again, please connect with me. We've got some helpers here. We're happy to chat, and look out for our follow-ups.
Thank you, Megan. I just wanted to remind everyone that you will receive a follow-up email tomorrow with a link to the webinar recording, so please feel free to share this link with your colleagues. The email will also include a survey link that you can fill out with your feedback on today's webinar. You should see a survey link pop up right here in Zoom following the session as well. On behalf of Charity Village, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you'll join us for our next free webinar, the Financial Statement Camp. You can find more information on this and all of our upcoming webinars at charityvillage.com/webinars. Thanks again for joining us today. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day.